somos las personas, tenemos el poder. Power to the people. America free.
Tenemos que entender una cuestión básica, compañeros. Nosotros somos trabajadores, éramos trabajadores, seguimos siendo trabajadores. Nosotros movíamos la economía en México, en Guatemala, en el Ecuador, en El Salvador, en Colombia, en Perú, y la movemos aquí en Estados Unidos. Vinimos a trabajar. Somos trabajadores internacionales, pero no vinimos a que nos maltraten, no vinimos a que nos insulten. Queremos trabajo, pero trabajo con dignidad. Queremos trabajo con justicia. Queremos trabajo con respeto. Si quieren que tengamos papeles para trabajar, dennos los papeles para trabajar.
Top secret investigation. Sanctuary City Exhibit Number 1. Abusing Homeland Security grants. Committing grants fraud. Evading the federal law. This is Rahm Emanuel. Rahm Emanuel is mayor of Chicago. Rahm Emanuel, as well as several other large city mayors, take advantage of Homeland Security grants. The name of the grant that you see on your screen is Citizenship and Assimilation Grant Program. The grant program is for citizenship instruction and naturalization application services. Now take a look at the amounts of money. The amount of money for the award ceiling is $9 million. Cities like Chicago can apply for the grant because it has a certain amount of people necessary to apply. But take a look above the $9 million, the estimated total program funding, which is blank. That's because there is most likely an infinite amount of money available for cities like Chicago to use this amount of money, this $9 million, for funding their cities. There is no floor amount, which is $0. Usually a floor amount is a minimum amount that a city can receive. Because Rahm Emanuel, over the years, has taken advantage of government funds, I call this a verdict fail. Government grants. So let's take a look at some of the grants in which cities like Chicago can apply for. Number 1, Citizenship and Assimilation Grant Program, which is the grant in which was mentioned at the very beginning of this video. The ceiling for that grant is $9 million. But let's take a look at number 2, Citizenship and Assimilation Grant Program for refugees and asylee assimilation program. The ceiling for that is $1 million. In 1982, there was a sanctuary city movement. That sanctuary city movement was of individuals from Guatemala and El Salvador. Those individuals went to various churches and sat in as asylum seekers, which at the time was the right thing to do. This particular set-in was at Wellington Avenue Church. Various other churches churches was also used as a means of them demonstrating how they felt, which accounts for why the federal government created such programs or grant programs in order to assist cities where immigrants from refugees would be living. So the central issue to immigration and sanctuary cities has all to do with grant funding. It has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with skills. It has nothing to do with people not being accepted in the United States. No, it has all to do with money and how these grants have been used by such large cities like Chicago, Los Angeles, and New York. That's what the sanctuary city battle and immigration is about. The problem with such sanctuary cities is the amount of money that is beginning to add up because of the number of people that are continuing to come to the United States. Look at number 3. This is the Choice Neighborhoods Implementation Grant Program. Now the ceiling you can't see here, but it's $30 million. This particular grant comes from the Housing Department of the United States, or HUD. This grant is provided to cities to take care of large numbers of people. Alright? So, like I said, the issue is not about race. It's not about abilities to do a job or doing jobs that other Americans don't want to do. It's not about that. It's about the money that has been adding up over the years past refuge. There's no more wars that is going on in Guatemala or El Salvador. So therefore, there's no reason for Rahm Emanuel or any mayor to utilize these types of funds for that purpose. Looking past what the sanctuary cities is the abuse of grants. Take a look at this grant here, number 4, Inglewood Public Safety Initiative. Inglewood Public Safety Initiative is another grant added on to what is already provided to the city of Chicago, like with 1 and 2. So not only do they have 1, 2, 3, but they also have Inglewood Public Safety Initiative, and then they also have another. This is one that they received particularly in 2017, the Northern District of Illinois, a violent gang and gun crime reduction program, which really has not much to do with sanctuary cities, but it goes to show you how the abuse of grants is beginning to go out of whack a bit. And I'm going to take a look also at number 6, this recovery challenge. This grant is for $3 million, and I'm trying to remember exactly. Yes, alright, so this particular grant here is for fish and wildlife. Alright, so this is for another amount of monies that has been used in Chicago for purposes of another project. So that's what this money is going towards. This $3 million is going towards. So again, the problem of sanctuary cities has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with people getting jobs that Americans don't want to have. It has all to do with money, refugees, and a simulation, the use of a simulation, right? And people that consistently are coming, and these cities are qualifying for these grants that they don't need, because at this time there is no refugee that is needed in or is granted in the United States, because there aren't any wars in Central America. Okay, there aren't any wars in Central America. It would be different if those who are opponents or are for sanctuary cities to go back to Congress to see if there was some form of gang-related grants for those that are coming from Central America, and therefore this money would be substantiated. But at this time, it isn't. Right?
The vision is already here, and it's just waiting for someone to come in and say, I want to be a part of it.
The Lakeside development has been a product of a shared vision in my company and with U.S. Steel for 7 years. This site is a site that gives Chicago a chance to take another couple of degrees in the achievement of greatness.
I think it's one of the greatest opportunities the city has for recreating itself for the 21st century.
When I think about large-scale economic booms, homes for sale, homes for rent, commerce, retail, you have a very attractive piece of property in a great location.
This is about a bigger and grander vision for Chicago and the site. The loop down Lakeshore Drive is one of the most beautiful drives in all of the United States. Southside of Chicago is gorgeous, it's beautiful, come and get to know it.
There's very few opportunities where a new development is begun from the ground up, and that provides an amazing blank palette that you can build upon and be creative with.
It's nearly utopian. You could be walking distance to the park, walking distance to your boat, a 10-minute drive to downtown, and walking distance to all of your shopping and daily needs.
There's just something for everybody. Restaurants and nightlife and art and culture, and the best place to live in the world.
We think that Lakeside has an opportunity to really set a new standard for sustainable living.
You can have a home that you can be proud of, the newest in technology, the best in water resources, the best in energy reuse. We're offering up the opportunity for a lot of development companies to have a legacy project. This is huge.
To say that you can come in here and make a game-changing investment in a city like Chicago, it's an exciting proposition.
My name is Joyce Edwards. I've been living here for 52 years. I raised 8 kids here. This is the second time I had to be replaced from my home. There's so much stress that it feels that my life is just being chiseled away, little by little. Right here where this gated off at, it used to be a through street, 58, all the way down to Hoster and across Hoster. All this is blocked off now. It's like they confine you in this area. It's like being punished because you're still here, because you won't sell your home or they don't want to buy your home. If you don't jump to they tune, this is what the results is. It's like living in hell after they got here and done this. I have a son with disability, cerebral palsy. He's in a wheelchair. And then by the construction was going on, the sidewalk was being broken up, not repaired back. My garbage service was interrupted for over a month. We falling up behind garbage truck, pleading with them to pick up our garbage. The other 2 houses is Miss Burnett She's over there on that block by herself. And maybe a little townhouse in the back you barely can see. It's just 3 of us left right now. It used to be homes full of homes, stores, and they just finished building that right there to stack their railroad cars there. It makes me mad and angry for them to come in and do this to the community. It's like black families in Inglewood does not matter. And then what makes it so bad, you're using government to do this under the Relocation Act. When the Dan Ryan construction came through, we was displaced. Then we was homeless for a few days. After that, my mother come across finding this home in the Inglewood area. I haven't gave in yet because I wanted everything to be fair, and I need to be satisfied and be complete as a whole. I don't want to take anything and then another 6 months to a year, I'm right back where I started. I'm on the streets, my grandkids, my family. I don't want that to happen.
Alright, so now you've taken a look at 2 other videos in regards to projects that are going on in Chicago. The first one was on Lakeside Project, and the second was on the Southside of Chicago. Let's start with the Southside of Chicago. That area is called Inglewood. There is a rail yard that is going to be built in an area by Norfork Rail Company. It's out of Norfolk, Virginia. Alright, so now the conspiracy in this particular situation of the second situation with Inglewood is that the state of Illinois took out a grant. It took out a grant from the DOJ. That's right, the Department of Justice. And it was also mentioned earlier in this video. So, but that particular grant is particularly taken out for rehab purposes for that particular area in Inglewood. So I find that to be kind of suspicious. At the very top of the page, you see the Chicago monies at $5.3 billion total in grants. That's not for me. It comes from an online website, which I will put in the link. It's called Open Book List, I believe, that you need to take a look at. And the reason why is because there's some type of scheme going on. There's something going on that's not right. If you look back earlier in this video, you'll see that there was another grant that was taken out. That grant went specifically for Lakeside, and the reason why is because it was on the north side of, well, no, that's not true. North side of town of Chicago is really a wealthier part of town, but it didn't actually need a gang and crime grant. So it just doesn't make very much sense to me. So, but this Lakeside project, that project, people, is $4 billion. It doesn't start until 2020. It won't be finished until 2050. So therefore, when you're seeing this large amount of immigrants coming in, and it's a sanctuary city, and these grants are being used, what else can you think? That there's some type of conspiracy, there is something going on in Chicago, because all of this money has been received by Chicago and Rahm Emanuel for a good number of years. Now, get this, that $5.3 billion total is from 2016. That's right, that's how much money that the state of Chicago got. And then it looks as if the state is in on it too, because of this DOJ grant, right? And that's why I mentioned the grants at the very beginning of the video, is because those grants show that this Inglewood area it's been singled out for some strange reason. Let's take a look at this chart here. And this is Chicago's immigration. All right? All right, so in 1970, there were 3 major groups coming to Chicago. They were German, Poland, and Latino. Right? But by the 1980s, like I said, for refuge purposes, that's why the Latino population went up. All right, so these marks are 10,000s. 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000. Or I'm sorry, that's 100,000. I'm sorry, 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, 400,000, 500,000. And this is it. That was in 2000, but it's now this amount has gone totally out of the water. Okay, it's just gone so far up. So when you're looking at this situation, the only thing I can think of is that grants are being used, and cities around the United States are using these grants to fund other projects or something. It's something really odd is going on. See, because that very first grant was the simulation grant. That grant is for training purposes, right? That's for from English to Spanish language training. And it also could probably go towards various departments of the city to kind of change up the documentation for simulation purposes. I mean, places, departments like vital records, the water and gas department of the city of Chicago, that makes sense, okay? And it may even go to human services, but what doesn't make sense, yet again, is the state. See, because that also means that the driver's license department has to change, or has changed, as well as Social Security Administration. Those documents have changed too. So there's some type of something going on that's rather odd to me. And maybe someone can clue me in on what's really going on, because I really just don't understand it all. Alright, so I also want to take a look at this, the housing. $30 million for housing. That's going to go into why this amount is so high. $5.3 billion total in grants. Oh yeah, public schools. Now see, public schools and their grants, that's another form of grant that's coming out of Chicago to the federal government. Why? Because there's a lot more people, you see. There's a lot of people that are coming in. Police department. So that's where all the true conspiracy for me is because the state of Chicago, state of Illinois, got a grant for Inglewood, and Inglewood is a part of Chicago. That's really strange, and it's odd to me. But then it has this $5.3 billion, and they're trying to make Chicago out of some type of glass city near Lakeside, or really Southside, the poor part of town. I think this is all about cash, and that's the purpose of this video, that it is all about cash. And I think that a lot of the Democrats are supporting this movement. It's because of the grants money. It's because of the money. It has nothing to do with immigrants. It has nothing to do with sustaining life and all of that, for providing people an opportunity. No. Because if people came normally to the United States, they would still be granted opportunity. So this is a bigger issue, isn't it? This issue has to do with people coming to the United States and the government taking money from the federal government, not government, but the city, the local, the local ordinances, and that's what this is all about. This issue of immigration or sanctuary cities is a local issue. It's all about ordinances. All right, it has really nothing to do with the state, so to speak. It has more to do with ordinances. Right, that's the problem in California. That's the problem in Chicago. That's the same problem in New York. Ordinances that prevent ICE from coming in and getting people and making sure that they're where they're supposed to be with proper documentation and all of that. But I also know this is also about gentrification, isn't it? It's about gentrification because you see that those people in Inglewood are kind of being bought out. They've been bought out by Norfork, the rail company. So this is a really strange, odd situation that Chicago has. And this money is $5.3 billion. It's just it's unfounded. It's unfounded. Don't understand why they need that type of money. 5.3 billion. Sanctuary cities, urban America. I put the K there because a lot of African Americans are using a K there for some reason. I don't know why that is. But take a look at the map. Everywhere you see a red dot is where a sanctuary city is. But these are in urban America and the large cities. So I just kind of want to give you an idea about where all of these large cities that are investing in these grants and getting a lot of money from the federal government, and probably why ICE is upset and why President Trump was trying to ban them. Unfortunately, he wasn't successful, and the reason why is because there was a circuit court judge that thought it was unconstitutional. So, but where are these major cities? Miami, Florida, Dallas, Texas, Austin, and Houston, Texas, Phoenix, Arizona, San Diego, California, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Denver, Colorado, Salt Lake City, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Detroit, Michigan, New York, New York, Baltimore, Maryland, Washington, D.C. Now, out of all places, now they also have some things with grants there within that city, the city of in the District of Columbia, the mayor's there, and it's always been a major problem in Washington, D.C., all the way back to Mayor Marion. I forgot that guy's name, but there has always been some type of controversy going on in Washington, D.C. But with that, they're definitely their sanctuary city too. So, but for this video, it's all about Chicago. Chicago is really taking a lot of money, as well as New York and Los Angeles. They've taken a lot of grant money for these sanctuary cities, and this is the problem. So I just wanted to shine a light on what the real problem is. But for African Americans, they probably know this lady. Her name is Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman led slaves from the South, which is of course these little places down here, Texas and Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, all of these southern states right here. Okay, I can't name them all, but you know what I'm talking about. They're all down here. She led those people up to the north so that they can get better jobs, so they can have a better life. And I think that if she was alive today, she would want for possibly African Americans to look the other way from the Democratic Party at this time. Only because they're going along with this sanctuary city stuff, this not housing people. I don't want to say that because I don't want to sound like I'm being rude or anything, because I'm not. I'm just saying that there's a lot of money. There's a lot of money that has been used by these huge cities, and it's grants money. It's a lot of money that's going out. That's the purpose of this video. It's the grants, the monies portion. And there's been other videos about leaving the slave plantation. It's not to be rude or to offend anyone, but leaving the slave plantation has all to do with what's going on in the Democratic Party. Yeah, maybe they're just using people. I don't know. But I know that this is a part of the Walkaway movement. So if you're offended by that, I apologize. That's not what I'm really referring to offend African American people. Okay? I'm just going along with the movement, because that's what our conservative movement is about, walking away. We really want people to vote differently. Look at sanctuary cities as being what they are, and vote a different way this time. Maybe people should vote for Republicans. I don't know, you decide. But after looking at this video, hopefully you have a better idea about what sanctuary cities are and how much it's costing the federal government in order to keep them, and why President Trump is so adamant about banning funds to these cities, because the amounts are just substantial. Can't afford it anymore.